Jim Allister.
Madam Speaker, I will vote for this bill. I will admit to some scepticism about enforceability in terms of the age excavator, but I think it does fundamentally address a huge problem in our society. There can be no doubt that smoking is a killer, and therefore the responsibility on us all is to seek to diminish the death toll. In respect of vaping, it's a very, in fact totally unregulated sector, and for many young people, I fear, it is a gateway to smoking, and therefore it is right that it too comes within the ambit of this bill. The Secretary of State this afternoon said that this was a Four Nations bill. I welcome that. I trust that is right. That's the point I want to test in my contribution, and to seek reassurance from the Minister about that. And the reason I test it is this, that Northern Ireland and Northern Ireland alone is still subject to the EU's tobacco directive. And we're subject to the EU's tobacco directive because it is one of 289 laws, EU laws, that are listed in Annex 2 of the Protocol, or the Windsor Framework, as it is now called, which remain in force in a part of this United Kingdom. And that tobacco directive, at Article 24, says this: Member States may not prohibit or restrict the placing on the market of tobacco or related products. Now, does this bill, by its necessary steps, restrict the placing on the market of tobacco? If it does, then this bill will fall foul of the tobacco directive and therefore will be unenforceable in Northern Ireland because of our ridiculous subjection to foreign laws that we don't make and can't change. Now, we have some illustration of what might happen, because in Denmark in 2022 they sought to introduce almost identical legislation. They had to withdraw it, and in withdrawing it, the Health Minister told the Danish Parliament on the 6th of April 2022, the Ministry therefore considers that a ban on the sale of tobacco and nicotine products to people born in 2010 or later would require an amendment to the European Tobacco Products Directive. And on that basis, they withdrew it. Now, the Irish Republic, earlier this year, was minded to introduce legislation like this. They didn't proceed for the same reason. Now, if we're in a situation where a part of this United Kingdom, quite absurdly, cannot be governed by laws that this Parliament wishes to make, then we're in a very sad situation indeed. And it is my fear that, like in Denmark, the imprimatur will not be forthcoming from the tobacco directive, and therefore we could have a situation where laws that we want to make, that we want to apply throughout the United Kingdom, will not be able to be applied because of our subservience to foreign jurisdiction. And if that is so, then that would be quite an appalling situation. I might say to the House, you have an opportunity to do something about it when my private member's bill comes to this House on the 6th of December, and I trust members will take that opportunity to liberate Northern Ireland from the bind of foreign jurisdiction and foreign law. I would also be fearful that when this matter goes to court, because there are vested interests to try and challenge its applicability in Northern Ireland under the Tobacco Directive, I'd be fearful as to the line our courts might take, because we've had some examples. This House passed, for better or for worse, the Legacy Act. It passed the Rwanda Bill. I'm not commenting on the merits of them, but I'm making it clear that when both went to our High Court in Belfast, both were declared inoperable in Northern Ireland. Why? Because of the supremacy of EU law. And if that were to happen here, then wouldn't it be an absolute scandal that we cannot afford to the people of Northern Ireland the same health protections that this bill will afford to everyone else in the United Kingdom? And why not? Because we are subject to a foreign jurisdiction. And it's the lifting of that jurisdiction that brings us the liberty to be governed as this House would wish us to be governed. And I trust that the Minister will be able to assure us that those fears are unfounded, that the Danes were wrong to withdraw their act, and that our courts will... Yes.
I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman. And look, I fully understand his concern here, I really do. That's why this government, and to give credit to the previous government, worked so hard to get this to a four-nation approach. I want to give him and the House the assurance it is the responsibility of the UK government to ensure compatibility of the bill with the Windsor Framework. The government has taken into account all domestic and international obligations in bringing this bill today.
I must say that gives me no assurance, because if the government's commitment is to ensure compliance with the Windsor Framework, it's the Windsor Framework which imposes the EU law on Northern Ireland. It's because it's in Annex 2, it's because of one of the listed laws in Annex 2 which continue to apply to Northern Ireland that it could trump what this bill says. And there's no point in saying to this House and to my constituents, we will abide by the Windsor Framework, because the Windsor Framework which binds us to EU law, and it's only by setting that aside that we can get the liberty from that.
I'm sorry to detain the House on this, but let me make it clear. This is a United Kingdom law. It covers all four nations of the United Kingdom, and we are assured that it is in compliance with the requirements of the Windsor Framework. This law will stand.
The House that a previous government, but government lawyers, probably the same, told this House that the Rwanda bill would apply in Northern Ireland, the Legacy bill was unchallengeable, and yet it turned out both of them fell under the supremacy of EU law. And on the face of it, the Tobacco Directive suppresses this bill, and the Tobacco Directive still has legal force in Northern Ireland. And if it turns out like that, then I would like to hear a commitment from the Minister that the government will override any suppression of this law in Northern Ireland and stand up for UK sovereignty in my part of the United Kingdom.